Welcome back, everyone. This is John with Silver Food Cardboard. I wanted to share my vintage basketball collection with you. So let's sit back, take a look at my cards, my favorite ones from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Enjoy. You had to love that 92 Dream Team. So let's take a look at some of my 1980s basketball cards. As you can see in the background, I've got a few of my Jordans laid out there. 86, 87, 88, 89 Fleer, and a few of the stickers. I am missing the 87 Fleer sticker. I don't know if I'll get that anytime soon, but let's take a look. So my goal was a few years ago when I started collecting the 86 Fleer, since I had the Jordan, that was my first 86 Fleer that I got again in my second collecting history, to get every one of the Hall of Famers in an 8, Hall of Famers and stars in an 8. And I did it. It's kind of on pause right now, so let's take a look at some more 86 Fleer. So we've got the Charles Barkley in an 8. The Moses Malone, or Karl Malone in an 8. Dr. J in an 8.5. Picked this up a year and a half ago maybe, and just had a really good price on it, and luckily won that eBay auction. Now we've got Moses Malone with that traded from 76'ers there in an 8. The Celtic great Kevin McHale. And all-time field goal percentage leader, at least right up there, Artis Gilmore. Bill Walton. A star, and not a Hall of Famer, but one of my favorite basketball cards of all time, just because it allowed me to think about the NBA dunk contest, the 5'7" Spud Webb. Remember when the dunk contest was going on? I was probably 15, 16 at the time, about the same height as Spud Webb, not even close to dunking the ball. And you gotta love those ponies. You don't see those around anymore. And the last two that I have, Larry Bird in an 8, and my $30 Magic Johnson. Yeah, I bought this a couple years ago now. SGC 9, I just saw it one night on eBay, and I had to pick it up at that price. And then finally, to top off the 1980s, let's go ahead and get into one of the more recognizable cards that you'll see around from the 80s is the beautiful 1980-81 Bird Johnson with Dr. J in the middle there. Really fortunate to have this particular card. A couple years ago is when I acquired this particular card. These two really saved the NBA, in my opinion. As a 10, 11-year-old, I watched NCAA basketball more than the NBA. Once the players went from college to the pros, I really didn't watch them that much. It was a league of one-on-one, and it wasn't really the showtime in the East-West rivalry until Larry and Magic came back into the game there. So let's go on. Next player up center Hall of Famer Ferdinand Lewis Alcindor Jr. Some nice video from Kareem's early days. Shot blocker and sky hook dominated his repertoire of moves on the court. So here's my first 81 Topps Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I didn't get the 86 Fleer. It's still on my list. We'll see if I can get something like that in the future. So this was the very first basketball set that I started to collect as a kid, 10 years old, 1981. I was really into baseball more, so this was just kind of a secondary thought when I was collecting the basketball. So 81 Kareem. Next up, I only have 4 cards of Kareem. So the next one up is the 73 Kareem NBA All-Star. And I believe this is the only card, base card, that has Kareem and Wilt on it. Pretty cool card, floating head there. Next up, second year Jabbar or Lou Alcindor. And that's in a 4.5. Kind of zoom in there. This was this year I picked this up and actually got a pretty good deal on it. I love the cards, the tall boys in the SGC holders, especially with those white borders and then the black on the SGC. Beautiful looking card. Interesting pose from Lou Alcindor there, but nonetheless, second year Kareem. And then finally for Kareem, we have the 1969 rookie card in a 2. And you can easily see the couple creases through there. Now this was a couple years ago that I purchased this. Purchased it as kind of a holding card, something, a placeholder, and I was going to upgrade. I never had. The centering's nice, the coloring's decent on it, and I was like, all right, well, this is going to be my rookie Lou Alcindor, and that's my Kareem collection. So next up is a awesome outside shooter, ball handler, and his nickname was Pistol Pete. Enjoy. And Pete Maravich, Pistol Pete Maravich. So this is his 1976-77 Topps in an SGC 8. What a shooter, what a ball handler. I believe still the all-time leader in scoring for the NCAA. Just a great guy. I actually was able to meet him in, it was either 85, 86, somewhere around that time frame, in a basketball camp, Central Florida. I was a decent high school outside shooter right when the three-pointer came into the league in Florida, and thought I was all that, thought I could shoot outside shots. And during his basketball camp, he could shoot. He was amazing. Amazing ball handler, just amazing basketball player. And, you know, the hobby does love his cards. So they're pretty popular and obviously on the rise. So that's the 76 tall boy, Pete Maravich. Next up, early card of his. And that's a 72 Pete Maravich on the Hawks. And that lime colored kind of green uniform with the high socks. PSA 8. Love that Pete Maravich. Beautiful card. Next up is a cool regional issue here, and this is the 1972 Icy Bear in an 8. SG or PSA 8. Neat looking card here, and you'll see that image is pretty popular here on the next card coming up. But let's take a look at the back here. So, Icy Bear, 3-time All-American, and was all-time college scorer with 36, 77 points. And like I said, I believe that's still the record. And these were distributed with Icy Bear slushies. So, beautiful card of Pistol Pete Maravich. Next up is probably my all-time favorite card. Number one, it's my birth year, so I collect a lot of cards from that year. Card that I wanted to have for years and years, and a very tough set to get it centered properly, and with all the print dots. And I think I did fairly good with this. 8s, 9s are just incredible right now. So this is a beautiful card. My favorite card of Pistol Pete, followed by probably that Icy Bear. As you can see, they were the same images. And then finally, from a couple years ago, I picked up this, actually a year ago I think it was, and I think I've showed this off before. So this is a PSA 5 rookie card of Pistol Pete Maravich, 1970 Topps Tall Boy. A beautiful example. That 5 is just centered good enough for me. The coloring, and not a lot of print dots on it. So Pistol Pete Maravich. Rest in peace, Pistol Pete. Loved your basketball camp. All right. Next up is a doctor, Dr. J.
So give me the night. There's music in the air, lots of loving everywhere. So give me the night. Give me the night. Give me the night. Give me the night. There's music in the air, lots of loving everywhere. So give me the night.
All right, one card from Dr. J. Actually, two. I already showed the 86 Fleer. This is his rookie card, the 72 Topps, and a PSA 7. This was also a couple years ago that I picked up this particular card. Nice example. Centering's not great. Coloring's nice on it, but I'm so fortunate to have this rookie card of Julius Erving. And next up is a Houston player that had a huge rivalry with Lou Alcindor in college.
I don't think either team really felt comfortable, but Elvin Hayes must have felt very comfortable. You know, he had the game of his career.
It was 2 baskets and a floor, and so for a basketball player, that's all you need.
There's the man they want to get it to. It's Hayes, 15-footer.
Elvin had the kind of a game that most basketball players dream of. You know, he seemingly could not miss.
Score! Elvin Hayes, cheered on by Coach Sky Lewis.
Didn't matter if the ball was in his face or not, the ball was going in.
Driven off to Hayes, who scores. Hayes has 35.
And as the game gets closer and closer towards the end, we haven't hit our normal UCLA run.
We near the final minute. Houston 69, UCLA 67.
And it never happened.
Houston leads by 2. Oh, Warren deflects it away from Shackelford. It'll go to Houston.
What a game between Lou Alcindor and Elvin Hayes. Elvin Hayes doesn't get a lot of hobby love. Really kind of forgotten. Probably a lot of people don't even know who he is. That 68 NCAA game was called the Game of the Century at the Houston Astrodome, and Elvin Hayes dominated him. At the time, UCLA had a 47-game winning streak, and Houston broke that game, led by Elvin Hayes and his dominance of Lou Alcindor at the time. They did meet again. They both went undefeated the rest of the year, and UCLA blew out Houston in the semifinals of the NCAA championship game. But Elvin Hayes, this is his rookie card here in a 7. And take a look at these stats here. Not too shabby as a rookie. Played all 82 games and 28.4%. Scoring average, the great and almost forgotten Elvin Hayes. So next up is a Laker great, former captain of the team, and also a player that doesn't get a lot of love. Stay tuned.
Your style of play, that you had something to do with the change in thinking with the way they play basketball in the pros?
I would like to think so, but there were many guys that came in the pro ball the same year I did. I think some of them could do these things, but I guess they were more disciplined than I was. I had a free hand to do these things. I did it in high school. My coach allowed it in college, and so when I came into pro ball, I continued to do these things. I watch some of the old films and look at the shots now, and I say, hey, this is exciting, and I think this is what the fans probably want to see now.
The #1 pick in the NBA draft in 1958, immediately filling the seats, saving the near-bankrupt Lakers.
We never heard about Elgin Baylor. It's like they kind of cast him aside.
It's a tragedy, I must tell you. And I've often said this of different ball players that I see around the country. Elgin Baylor, no doubt, is one of the top small forward in the game. Who could play better forward than Elgin Baylor?
Elgin Baylor, to me, is the most underrated player in NBA history.
Elgin, I have said...
Next up is Elgin Baylor, Laker great, team captain. This is towards the end of his career. Third-year card, technically, for Elgin. Let's take a look real quick here. And take a look at those statistics there. So he was really one of the first kind of flashy players, before the Dr. J and Jordan. He had some flair to his game. Elgin Baylor. Next up is his second-year card, and this is the 1969 Topps and a PSA 7. I was looking for centering on this card. I love these tall boys, and I actually like this series a little bit better than the 70, with the exception of probably that Pete Maravich. That Pete Maravich is just kind of a classic card there. And the back there. And at the time, he was the #2 all-time leading scorer behind Bob Pettit, another player that doesn't get a lot of love in the hobby. All right, next up is a man that went by the alias George Marcus. He was one of the best all-time centers ever. Go ahead, pause this video, and Google George Marcus Wilt and see what comes up.
In the game, he blocked 26 shots.
On the 55 rebound game, how about that, against Bill Russell?
Wilt won 7 scoring titles. He won 9 shooting titles. He won 11 rebound titles. And then he led the league in assists one year.
When he was in the latter part of his career, the news media or somebody would walk up to him and say, you can't score anymore. 50, 60, then they go back to passing the ball and whatever. And if you challenged him, that just took him to another level in terms of, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. It's not possible for any human being to do the kinds of things that he was able to do.
In an 80-game season, he played 79 complete games. He missed 8 minutes of one game because it got thrown out. Other than that, he played every moment of every one of those games.
All right, so George Marcus was the alias that Wilt Chamberlain used as a 16 and 17-year-old kid in high school in order to play the semi-pro teams in his area, and he dominated those teams. So some really good reading if you just take a look at that and see what Wilt did back in the day. So this is a 1970 Wilt. This is his third-year card. This is what I call a pacifier card. What I mean by that is I was in an auction a couple years ago for a PSA 3. Not an auction, I'm sorry. Best offer on eBay. The seller was offering $1,300 for the card. Beautiful centered PSA 3. I offered $1,250. The offer was declined. Then I went back and offered $1,275 for it, and the offer was declined. And I was just scratching my head, and I'm like, I'm stubborn. I'm for $25. I'm bailing out. That seller will get a hold of me. The card eventually sold. I didn't get the card, and so I went out for I think $10 or $15 and just had to buy a Wilt Chamberlain card. So this is his 70 Topps Tall Boy, and then I did just upgrade recently. I think it was this year on this 6.5. Beautiful 6.5. Interesting story on this one. This was an eBay auction, and it was ending late. So it was either 12 midnight or 1 in the morning Eastern time was when this auction ended. And I was winning it, and I also had kind of another bid up to point on there, and ended up winning it. And the seller immediately that night emailed me and stated that this card is really undergraded, and I sent it to PSA to have it regraded. I thought they were going to bail on me, but they didn't. So fortunately I got a nice 6.5 third year Wilt Chamberlain Tall Boy. And then here is a nice example of his second year, and a scratched up SGC 4 holder, but centering's good. Had a little print dot right there, but a good example of the second year Chamberlain card, and a 4. Thanks. All right, next up is the Big O.
Simply one of the greatest all-around talents the game has ever seen, and a man known by the simplest of nicknames, the Big O.
When you hear Michael Jordan's the best player of all time, how do you react?
I react by saying those people probably didn't see Oscar Robertson play.
He kind of set the tone for big guards when Magic Johnson and LeBron wasn't even thought of yet. So he was that first guy that you can kind of believe in, that a guy at his size that can handle the basketball.
6'5", 220 pounds, a guy that was so athletic and so versatile with the basketball, and he could dominate at any point against anybody. It wasn't just that he played point guard, he played the 3 position, the 4 position, and could do everything, and just an unbelievable talent. But anytime the league starts talking about triple doubles, Oscar Robertson is the first name out of every analyst's mouth.
I didn't really go about to set goals like that.
Still, I believe the all-time triple-double leader in the NBA. Here is his 1974 Nabisco, Oscar Robertson, Sugar Daddy. So this series here was made in 74-75. It featured basketball, football, and hockey. And Oscar Robertson has 1 card in the set, and just in 74. And then Wilt Chamberlain actually has 2 in both 74 and 75. So, cool card. You'll see him out there every once in a while. And this is a good example of a 7. Next up, back to my favorite set, is the 1971 Topps Oscar Robertson in a PSA 7 with that backwards jersey on, because Topps didn't have the NBA licensing at the time, so you'll see players with either covered up numbers or their jersey on backwards. Not my best purchase. I missed the little print lines there running kind of vertical in it, a print stain. But still, centering is good on this. Tough year to get centered. So 71 Oscar Robertson. Here is the 1970 Tall Boy, Oscar Robertson. And that is a 8. Great example. Actually, a really good deal on this. So for a, Hall of Famer, his caliber, still leading, in triple doubles for all time. What a great card. That jersey's on backwards again, which is hilarious. And I'll take a look at the back there really quick. So really good, bold colors on the back. You'll see sometimes that this card is kind of faded out. And you can see he was the captain of the 1960 U.S. Olympic team. All right, now coming up here is his second year card, and that is a 1969 Topps Tall Boy and a PSA 6. Beautiful looking 6 there. I was looking for centering on this card here, and I think I did a pretty good job on that. And then finally for Oscar Robertson, this is probably my favorite card that I picked up for him, and this is the 1961 Cons Wiener and a 1.5. I had this as a saved search on eBay. It popped up a couple months ago. I don't see this a lot, so kind of a history here. Cons made basketball cards from 57 to 65. They distributed them in the Cincinnati area, thus the Cincinnati Royals. Cards were the main players that were on that card set through those years. They did, which nobody knows why, in 60, 61, 62, and 63, they included Jerry West for some reason. But so this card was a best offer. I offered you don't see these a lot. There's less than 30 of these in PSA. And I went ahead and put an offer in, and immediately it was accepted. I paid, and then I think the buyer had remorse. They must have either done some research, maybe they didn't really know what they had, and said, I'm not at home. I won't be back to my house for another week, and maybe I'll go ahead, or I'll go ahead and locate it and then get it shipped out to you. And it was crickets for about 10 days. fortunately, the seller did find it, did send it to me. So I am so fortunate. Now, he does have a 1960 Cons Wieners. And so this one is the second year, but an early Oscar Robertson. Cool card. It's got some staining because these were inserted in packs of hot dogs. And this here is interesting, a bunch of stamps, and then you can see the wiener juice lines on the back there, and then a bunch of stamps. It was funny because years ago in the 80s when I worked at a card shop, I asked a collector about cards that had these type stamps on there, and he said a lot of the food and beverage, the hot dog cards, that was a stamp so that hot dog vendor knew how many hot dogs he actually sold that day, and he can quickly go back and count them up on the back of the card. And so they would just lay them on the hot dog cart and count them up at the end of the day, and they knew how many total hot dogs they sold. I don't know if that's true or not. It's a good story, so let me just share that story with you. So I am super happy to get this particular card here. And then finally, I wanted to share two more cards. We've got a 61 Fleer. I do not have a lot of 61 Fleer, but this is a great example of Bob Pettit, the great forward from the St. Louis Hawks. Bob, I believe, just turned 89 back in December of 2020. And a beautiful example of his 61 Fleer. 57, I believe, is his rookie card. And then finally, see if I can fit this on here. It is the... Whew, that's a huge card there. We'll tilt it down there and get a nice little light spot there. So this is Hall of Famer, the great Cliff Hagan. He is a Hall of Famer in the NBA. And this is the 59 Busch Bavarian Cliff Hagan. It's funny, when you shop on your phone and you don't really look at what the size of the card is, sometimes you really don't know, but I wanted an early NBA Hall of Famer, and when this popped up, I was like, this is pretty cool. So I believe this is a 5-card set. It is regional, and it is, I think, out of the St. Louis area, and Bob Pettit, I believe, is in this set also. So pretty cool little issue there. All right, everyone. Well, I want to thank you very much for taking that journey with me on some of my vintage basketball cards from the, I guess, 50s now, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I always love your comments, so please comment, and I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.